as we're talking about the expanded range and all that, tell us a little bit, because there's this bass I'm sure a lot of people have been seeing in the corner. I know for the longest time we've been seeing you play your Conklin basses.
Yes, and that's part of the story.
Yes.
Victor, when he brought me out of retirement, I said I didn't want to play the Ken Smith no more. I said that I had been playing that since like 83, 84. I said I'd really need to do something else. So Victor came out to Nashville, and I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing here, but okay, show me something. I don't know what. So he introduced me to Bill Conklin. He had a 7-string bass. I said, okay, well, that's interesting. I tried it, and I didn't like it. I told Bill, I said, beautiful looking bass, but I just don't like the way it feels. I said, but maybe we can do some work together and maybe, give me, make me something that fits the way I'm used to, having a bass to feel. And that was the beginning of it. And then how the 9-string came about was because in the 80s, one of the other companies I endorsed was also, after the Smith era, was Olympic. And so we had this idea. Well, I was my idea, but I used to do sound checks for Ramsey Lewis, and he would go out in the house and listen because I could play well enough to, he can hear the sound of the piano, he can hear the chords or whatever, but mainly about the sound of the piano. So one time we got this Bosendorf extended range piano. So all the keys were black and white till you get down to the low C, and after that, it was all black. So I started playing. I'm like, whoa, chords sound huge. I get down to the low F sharp, and I'm like, whoa, this is sick. And so I thought to myself, I said, I bet I could come up with a bass with a low F sharp. I went to Susan Wickersham and her husband, because I did a show at the Fairmont Hotel on Nob Hill in San Francisco. And another friend of mine, dear friend of mine, was Glenn Kwan. Glenn, another athlete now. Glenn was an incredible gymnast. I had seen Glenn work out on the rings and do all these spins and all this. Glenn Kwan is a monster.
Wow.
Monster. So he loaned me his car to go out to Santa Rosa, California to Olympic.
Mm-hmm.
And he loaned me I think it was like a 1947 or 51 Rover. It was in mint condition. I drove the thing from San Francisco to Santa Rosa. So, I don't remember all this stuff because he's like so much. You played on 400 records, you played with 200-300 artists, a brain, and I just can't hold all of this. But I do recall talking to Susan's husband, and I gave him this idea. And he said, you know what? I want to take a stab at it. I want to try it. So they made an 8-string bass. It was never finished. They wanted to make the bass the same way they made the basses for the Grateful Dead tour, where and the guitars, every string had a separate out, because it would create this sort of panning effect. And I said, I'm not gonna have 100 cabinets on stage with a trio. Yeah. So the bass was never finished. So one of my students from the 80s got in contact with me and said, that bass, that Olympic bass that you had, that you sold to me, I still have it, and I'm getting ready to sell it. Can I tell the buyers that you were the owner of this bass at one time? I said, absolutely. So he gets in contact with the people at Olympic. I didn't know that Susan and her husband had retired and the daughter took over. So he called there because he needed to get the electronics and the specs on the bass. And he had talked to the daughter, and the daughter said, tell Bill Dickens we still have the 8-string body, and we would love to finish it for him.
Oh, wow.
I like, what? You know, so many things have happened throughout my career, successful and some things not successful.
Sure.
You know, get back to the extended range basses, Bill Conklin. And I told Bill about the Olympic bass that they were going to make me. He said, we already got an 8-string. I'm going to build you a 9. You can see all these different things I've gone through makes my eyes just automatically go like that. I just, coming from an urban neighborhood to where I am in the business. Well, not sort of, but an iconic, musician. I never thought I would ever get to this point. The funny thing about the whole Bill Conklin thing, may his soul rest in peace. I love him like a brother, The funny thing is when he made my 9-string, I never seen it. So we didn't talk about how he was going to build it or what he was going to do. He's just going to make this. And I'm just looking at him like he's crazy. Like, you going to make a 9? Really? So this is a very true story. I was heading over to his booth, and I wasn't even near his booth. It was a long line, a real long line that was leading to his booth. So I'm thinking it's a rock star. Because the only time you see lines around the corner is for a rock star.
Yeah.
At the NAMM show. Or if it's Victor, I consider him a rock star. Or Stanley, Billy Sheehan, Marcus, But this was really strange because I got at the back of the line. And I'm standing in line because I'm thinking, okay, well, this is a big autograph signing for somebody. I want to find out who it is. I'm like, this is a huge long line. And somebody turns around and says, are you Bill Dickens? I said, yes, I am. They said, why are you standing in line? I said, I'm waiting to see who is, at the booth. He said, no. They're not here to see anybody. They're here to look at your bass. My eyes again. So I went from the back of the line all the way to the front. And it was like people just kind of like parted the sea, man. And I looked at the bass like that. I mean, I was stunned. I was more in shock than anything. And people were saying, go play your bass, go play your bass. And what do I do? You know what I mean? So when you talk about extended range basses, and people get misinformed, why do I play this? I study classical guitar. A guy by the name of Jim Spector, who's a classically trained guitarist and bass player, helped me to develop the 3-finger picking technique. Eventually, of course, my inspiration through Abraham Boreal, I was able to do the P-I-M-A-C. So I played with all 5 fingers and all the nails.
Oh, wow.
As 5 picks. So because I played like that, 2 of my biggest inspirations is James Taylor and Earl Klugh. So I'm a guitarist and a bassist. So what the extended range bassist allowed me to do was to be able to sight read and be able to stay in one position rather than on a 4-string you have to go first, second, third position. On a 7, I can just pretty much stay here 80% of the time. Very rarely do I have to go up.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't about the chops. Everybody thought it was about the chops. No, it's about the sight reading. It's about also playing the chords. So when I play in a rock band and a guitar player takes a solo, I can accompany him and still play the bass line and play the chords too.
Nice.
So it's more musical than it is chops, but everybody gravitates to Bill Dickens' chops. Said, I'm the one that started all of this crazy stuff. I take the credit, but I'll say this to you. For me, when people say crazy, that I play crazy stuff, I said, no. You have to understand, I shared a stage with Freddie Hubbard, Stanley Turrentine, Dave Valentine, some of the greatest musicians in the world. I've done shows with Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, Carmen McRae. It's Johnny Mathis. Johnny Mathis That's another story. I'm standing on stage playing Misty on the bass, right? And for sound check, we're doing the show with Johnny Mathis. I'm playing the song. All of a sudden, I hear Johnny's voice behind me. I'm like, I'm scared to death. He said, keep playing. And he's singing Misty while I'm playing the chords. I turn around, it's a construction worker with sunglasses on. I'm like, who are you? He took his glasses off, it was Johnny. I said, why are you wearing this outfit, man? He said, I have tons of disguises so I can go through the airport, and nobody recognizes me. So you go through the airport as a construction worker? He said, I got tons of stuff. So Johnny said, I've never heard no bass player play like that. Never in my life. You never know who you touch, And I hung out the whole day with Johnny Mathis because of that. But again, it's like when people refer to me about the speed and then they start saying, what's that word? Wanking? I've heard of nothing like that before. I'm like, what is that? I said, I've been playing bebop licks, classical guitar, phrasing since the late 70s. And I played with the greatest musicians on the planet Earth. And got standing ovations and had them throwing stuff at me and all that stuff. And I mean, I'll tell you this way. If a person is arrogant and has nothing to show for it, that means that they are very insecure with themselves. My case, if I was arrogant, I have hundreds of things to back that up.
Sure.
But I'm a kid. I'm like a little kid in an old man's body. I'm always evolving. Always. And I evolve now. So with Bill Conklin, and I'm going back again because it's like sometimes I'll go off the deep end.
Yeah.
That's age, man. With Bill Conklin was a trailblazer. He was a trailblazer. But you have to understand something. He went against the grain.
Mm-hmm.
I'll explain this if you don't already know. As a music director, as a recording artist, problem is with extended range basses, guitar players don't like them because they feel you're getting in their middle, they're getting in the way of their range. You're in competition. The other side of it too is image. If you look at most pop acts, as far as bands, Maroon 5, other acts like that, it's about tradition. It's about that Fender. It's about the black wound strings. It's about a look. And you have to respect that. In my case, to be a trailblazer is giving me opportunity to prove people wrong constantly. And that's the hardest part. And that was hard for Bill Conklin because a lot of times Bill would be at a NAMM show and people wouldn't even pick the instrument up because they were scared of it or they just hands off.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of musicians that had to part ways with extended range basses in order for them to work. And I respect that. You can't force something down somebody's throat. But the fact of the matter is, I feel responsible for a whole nother generation of people playing this instrument. And one guy that's carrying the torch for me and Anthony, and is Thundercat.
Yeah.
He carved out his own lane. He's in his own place, own space, and I'm very proud to know that I was part of that generation that inspired cats like him and others to continue on with extended range basses. But again, a lot of times when you're in the record business and you're on my side of the business, on the pop side, people don't understand that. everybody wants to hear Bill Dickens play chops. But then I go and say, well, here's a Janet Jackson record I played on. Here's a Mary J. Blige record I played on.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to hear that. It's like I'm laying foundation down. I'm making people dance. That's more important to me than, like, I love to play chops and solo, but I love to play melodies. I like to touch people's hearts. Sometimes one note, which I learned from being on shows with B.B. King, is more effective than playing a bunch of notes. And a lot of times, this generation doesn't really understand that it's music first, and then your ability to display chops second. And if you don't understand the song, you won't play for the song, then you have no song.